Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Śaṅkaram Lokashankaram Śaṅkaram Śaṅkaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavarthaye Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambham Vyasa Śaṅkara Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, the eternal mantra or any sadhaka. Captured very nicely in the third verse. Vakyartasya vicharyatam Shrutishira pakshasamaashriyatam Dustarkat suviramyatam Shrutimatas tarkonusandhiyatam Brahmaivasmi vibhavyatam aharahat garva parityajyatam Deheham matirujyatam udajanai vada parityajyatam. We want listen to, analyze, understand the Shrutishira Vakya, Mahavakya. That requires some contemplation, not straight, simple sentence which says grass is green. It is something that goes so against whatever we think we know. It requires very careful thinking, use of logic, analysis through a process called mimamsa. We saw that. So that one gets the knowledge that is embedded in the Shruti in a very cryptic manner. Even after we have gained that knowledge by Shravanam, Shravanam is for gaining knowledge. When one has accepted the Shruti and the Guru Vakyam as pramana, Shravanam gives us that knowledge. But it is still in conflict. Knowledge of I completely different from what I thought I knew I was. A lot of analysis. Knowledge of the Jagat, which everybody convinced me is real, even though I have a lot of doubts. How can something be real which keeps changing all the time? But the Jagat is real, the physical things are real, the war in Afghanistan is real, the threat to humanity in many ways across the world is real. The fear is real. My elation is real when I get something good. Everything is real. Exactly the way for the person within a dream, everything in the dream is real. That's all we knew. And suddenly here a Shruti Vakya comes and says, all this tangible, intangible, big, small, near, far, everything has no existence of its own. This is mere nama rupa, no substance. Despite the fact that if I stub my toe hurts. The stone on which I stub my toe is mithya. My toe is mithya. The stubbing is mithya. And pain is also mithya. It is like there was a king who had two ministers. Both had studied Shastra, therefore they were ministers. One understood Ekameva Advitiyam, that is what he propounded. Others said this is all nonsense, everything is real. I am separate, Jagat is separate, Ishvara is separate. And once when they all went hunting in the forest, they were attacked by a wild elephant. And they all, of course, ran. Leading the running was our Advaitin advisor. And when they all settled down safely somewhere, the other minister thought he had a great handle to beat this fellow with. So in the next council, he told the king, oh, what is this fellow? He keeps saying everything is mithya. That elephant is mithya. Why did he run away from the elephant? King was convinced. There is an argument there. So he looked at the other fellow and said, what do you say? He said, who said I ran away? That is also mithya. Everything is mithya only. There is only one satyam. There can be nothing but one satyam. So despite the fact that everything looks real, Shastra says it is not. No, but I can see it, I can feel it, I can perceive it, I can touch it. Shastra says, yes, you're absolutely right. Therefore, it is not real. All the time we are saying, because I can see it is real. Shastra says, no, because you can see it, it is not real. Another set of confusion. And then Ishvara, we have so many ideas on Ishvara. That is why you have so many wars. Because my idea of Ishvara doesn't fit with your idea of Ishvara, I will beat you up till you agree my idea of Ishvara is correct. Both of them may be wrong. Shastra says Ishvara is Jagat Karanam. Vinna Nimitta Upadahana Karanam. Both the material cause and the intelligent cause of the Jagat. And being the cause, being the Karanam, everything else being Karyam, the Karyam is non-separate from the Karanam. And to top it all, having shown that this whole Jagat, which incidentally includes my own body, mind, sense complex, is non-self-existent, is non-separate from Ishvara. It goes on to make that big statement, Mahavakya, that Ishvara, from which nothing in the Jagat is separate, is you. So all four of these are so against everything that the world teaches us. That Shravanam cannot be done without certain initial analysis of why none of this that I assumed can be correct. And Shraddha in the Shastra. So both are required. Both a vichara saying why what I think is I, what I think is the Jagat, what I think is Ishvara, cannot be right. And therefore, to find the right answers, I have to have a pramana, which is Shastra. And therefore, I have Shraddha in the Shastra. Both are equally important. Not only both. Also, a third factor equally important. I must be ready. I must have the adhikaritvam. Otherwise, my head is already stuffed with all my notions, which I find very difficult to accept is not right. That adhikaritvam comes from karma yoga, atma shuddhi and chitta naishchalyam. Even after doing all this, even after doing so much shravanam, there is a certain lack of conviction. What that fellow says also seems logical, also seems right. There's no fallacy anywhere as I examine that. If what Shastra says is right, if I am infinite, I am Ishvara, no other statement can better it. No other statement, because you are saying already that you are infinite. If Shastra tells me I'm infinite, and somebody else tells me, no, you're limited, because that is what I mean. Any other statement, any other thinking, any other philosophy has to be less than this. It cannot be, it is equal, fine, the same. It cannot be more. So anything else has to be less. Even though it sounds very convincing, why should I accept less? What is it that is different between the two? Where is the contradiction? To examine this very carefully, we have to use tarka, logic. There is no other way of doing it. Here is one statement from Shruti. Here's another statement from anyone. Stephen Hawking, J. Krishnamurti, brilliant people. But it is not the same thing that the Shruti says. So only one of them can be right, both cannot be right. How do I examine and determine that? This process of analysis, mimamsa and further tarka, Śaṅkara does that in great style in Brahma Sutra Bhashyam. Avirodha Adhyaya, second chapter of Brahma Sutra. Every single one of them he picks up and says, where is the problem? Applies their own logic and shows where the problem is. More philosophies have come up since Śaṅkaracharya's time, but we have enough knowledge, enough logical reasoning to be able to figure out where the problem is. This process is what is called mananam. Removal of any kind of doubt. Though the knowledge becomes sthira. There is no doubt at all. Whatever doubt others had planted in your mind, your own analysis, your own thinking. It is so strong now. It is as strong as your knowing that you're a human being. And somebody comes and tells you with convincing arguments why you're an animal. You will never accept it because you've seen where the issue, your knowledge of your humanness is dhrida. No way that can be shaken. Through this process of mananam, one looks at every other possible way of thinking. Not only just other matas, not Christianity or Islam or Jewish or whatever. If it is not the same as what Shastra, if it is the same as what Shastra says, fine, that's also Shastra. Whether it's written in Hebrew, whether it's written in any other language, Latin. But if it is different, if it says anything other than that you are infinite, can be examined and seen where the problem is. Therefore, in the second line, he said, Dustarkar Suviramyatam. Be wary of only tarka, and we've seen where the tarkas can trip and fall. And stick to repeatedly understanding what Vedanta says. You will be the gainer. Swami G used to say, till you have done enough shravanam, don't study other arguments. Stay with Śaṅkara. He has shown how these are not right. Study Śaṅkara Bhashyam. After you have studied many ways of Vedanta, many different Upanishads, then you study Brahma Sutra. If you start studying those other thinking before the clarity is already emerged in your mind, it will cause only confusion. Because they are so convincing. I don't know how many of you have read J. Krishnamurti. His thought process is so complex and so convoluted that you can be sure that will go round and round, never get anywhere, if you have not already studied enough of Vedanta. If you have, then you can see where his argument is matching with this, where his argument is not. He also uses like Shashi Tharoor language. Say, round and round language. Same thing with something like Stephen Hawking. Brilliant people. And later thinkers like Ramanujacharya, Madhavacharya, etc. One can read them much later, having got that absolute dhrata. So mananam is complete. It's never complete. The process carries on. But despite the fact that one has done a lot of shravanam and mananam, there are remnants. They don't easily go away. How can they go away so easily? Some of my thinking has always been based on what I knew, not in 30 years or 40 years or 50 years in this janma. Based on how many janmas I don't know. And constantly reinforced by the world around me. Very difficult for it to go away easily. Despite my conviction, I struggle with that. My brain has understood. Because this is not faith. It is Shruti, Vakya, and every logic will only endorse it. Although we're not looking for endorsement from logic. Because Shruti is a pramana. I don't need any logic to endorse it. But it has to not contradict what logic I have. It has not to contradict anything else that I know. Any other pramana I have, it should not contradict. That contradiction is there on the surface. Like our famous equation. 7 plus 11 is equal to 6 into 3. Nothing is common in them. The child can get confused. Not one number is common, not one sign is common, and yet we put an equal to between that. It has to be understood. Even though the brain has accepted what has been said by the Shastra, somewhere in my system, I'm not getting the grasp of it. It is like you've remodeled your room. As you enter the room, the switch was on the left, light switch. So you enter the dark room in the dark, automatically your hand goes there and you switch on the light. Then you remodel the room. Everything is changed. The furniture has been moved, windows have been moved, doors have been moved. You've created an extra balcony. And in the process of doing this, the light switchboard has been moved to the right. You've been living there for the last 30 years. In the dark, you again go into the room. Where does the hand go? Automatically to where the switch was earlier. Or I've had experience ever, people who lived in one place for many years. For the first several days, when they come back home, the car automatically goes to where they used to live after they moved to a new place. It is such strong habit in the system. You know that you moved to a new house. That knowledge is there. But you still end up, oh God, where did I go? Oh God, I have to go. Yeah. That non-reasoning part of the system, call it emotion, call it whatever you want, also drives us. So there is this viparita bhavana. And that viparita bhavana has to be overcome. And that viparita bhavana is also because although I have intellectually understood what the Shastra says, that I am infinite. The name of the infinity is Om or Brahma. But I am only admiring it from far. It's a beautiful word. Primordial sound, Om. I can hear the sun. NASA will come up with a thing saying that when you listen to the sound of the sun, it will say Om. Hey, that is not Om. You are Om. That doesn't come easily. You are Om. You are Brahman. You've already done enough to say that body, mind, sense complex is not you. But because the world around us has to be dealt with, has to be transacted with, that connection between I and the body does not go away. The trick is, the body is I, the mind is I, the senses are I am none of them. To get to that level, he says, Brahmaivasmi vibhavyatam. Aharaha. Constantly contemplate upon I am Brahman, Aham Brahmosmi. That is Nididhyasana. And like we said, Nididhyasanam has to be, is also a form of meditation. On what? There is only Nirguna Brahman, and I am the Nirguna Brahman. The meditator is the meditated. So only available object of meditation, for want of a better word, there are no objects, are the words. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Asangaha, Tat Brahma Nishkalamaham, Nacha Bhuta Sangaha. I have nothing to do with the bhutas. All the bhutas are I because they depend for their existence on I. I am not them. Therefore, the 9 examples that Uddhalaka gives to his son Shvetaketu. Mrittika eva satyam. Everything else is dependent satyam. 9 times. Therefore, he says, Hey Shvetaketu, you are that satyam. Brahmaivasmi, Brahmaiva, ahamasmi iti vibhavyatam. Constantly, aharahar, daily, contemplate upon the words unfolded by the Guru, taken from the Shastra. Some of you have studied Nirvana Shatkam. Beautiful piece of like this. To contemplate upon what I am, what I am not. Atma, Anatma, Viveka. When that Viveka begins to appear, I'm home. And then in the next part of the line, he said, Garva Parityajyatam. There also we can use Aharahar. Either you can use with Bhavyatam or with Garva Parityajyatam. It's called Dehali Deepanyaya. Can be used for both. Again, garva parityajitaṃ, we can look at two ways. Yesterday we looked at one aspect of it. Where does garva come from? Pride. I am strong. Can be garva. But are you strong? No, my body is strong. That individuality, that ego is what creates that garva. I am highly intelligent. I am a doer. I take a job, I complete it. I don't leave it undone. I am the fastest runner in the world. That can be garva. But are you the fastest runner? You are all-pervading Brahman. How can you run? You can run only when you are limited in space. You can run from one place in the space to another place in the space. You are all-pervading. Why can you run? This is one way of looking at it. Therefore, reinforce the fact that Aham Brahmosmi, I have nothing to do with the body, mind, sense complex. All pride comes from some aspect of body, mind, sense complex. This is one way of looking at it. Another aspect of this, because from here on, the Acharya is going to cover what one can be like in interaction with the Jagat. Pride goeth before a fall. Correct? Or cometh before a fall. Remember, he's talking about mukshus. In fact, he's already started talking about sannyasi. Karma parityajyatam. Give up all karma. Whether one is a sannyasi or one is not a sannyasi, one is a grihastha or a vanaprasthi, the fact is that any such thought, I know, as a sense of pride, is a sure indication that you don't know. All kinds of pride are there. Probably the strongest of them is the pride of knowing. One has learned something, one has done a lot of Shravanam, one has learned some amount. Therefore, I'm superior. I know more than all these fellows who have never looked at Shastra. It has been available to them all their lives. They have done enough punya to be born in a country where it's accessible to them. They don't study. Also can be pride. That also one has to give up, because from here you will see that as a mumukshu, one has to cultivate certain qualities. Amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, kshanti, arjavam, acharya upasanam. Or even the other ones in the 12th chapter, what is that? Adveshta, sattva bhutana, maitra karuna evacha. All qualities. These are qualities of a jnani, but they're also qualities of a person who is aspiring for the jnana. For a jnani, it is automatic. Because he's the jnani, because he knows he is infinite, he is Brahman, and therefore everybody is the same. None of these have to be practiced, they come automatically. But for a person who is still in the process of understanding this, who has done enough Shravanam and Mananam, this has to be consciously practiced. So Aharaha Garbha Parityajitam is one of them. That is the other way of looking at this Garva. We one give up this Garva because this is going to pull you back. And many other qualities. We'll see some of them again further ahead. We've seen a lot of them in the Gita. All of it starts with the well-established, well-entrenched thought. Matihi, that I am this body. Just doesn't go. It doesn't go because of two reasons. One, like I said, because it's so deeply entrenched in every human being. That I sense is there. And whether you like it or not, when you get up and go somewhere, the body moves, it looks like I move. Correct? So there's a lot of logic behind it to say that I'm therefore what is in the body. But having done enough Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam, and understood the aparoksha jnanam that aham brahma, I am infinity, I am purnaha. This individual body is a limited adjunct. All exist because I exist. I have nothing to do with them. They have no impact on I. I am asangaha. Just as my anger or fear in my dream does not affect in any way my hunger or others in my waking state. Agasvap samiti prabodha samaye yap pratyabhignayate. We wake up to the reality of waking state, the reality of waking state. When we are in deep sleep, we have no identification with the body. Neither with this Sthula Sharira, nor with the Sukshma Sharira. Therefore, when one is in deep sleep, you cannot get up for a glass of water. Prana is alive, therefore thirst might be there. But you can only go for a glass of water when you wake up, or at least half wake up. Deep sleep, you cannot move the body. There is no body consciousness. Abhimana is not there. That external interaction of the body, physical body, called Bahishprajna. No interaction. What about people who sleepwalk? They don't sleepwalk. They semi-sleepwalk. They are in deep sleep, we cannot walk. There is no Deha Vimana. Therefore, sometimes one might get up in the night, go drink a glass of water and go back to sleep instantly. From deep sleep goes to semi-sleep, come back to deep sleep perhaps. Dream is like that. Dream is also something like semi-sleep. Antaprajna. Waking state is Bhishprajna. Interaction with the external world. Dream is Antaprajna, interaction with the internal world. Therefore, you can project a dream, whole Jagat you can project, using only your Antakarana, Sukshma Sharira. But I am neither the Bahishprajna, nor the Antaprajna, nor Ubhaya Prajna. Neither, none of them. All we will study in Mandukya Upanishad when we get a chance. So, deha hamasmi iti matihi, this kind of thought, ujjatam. Tajjatam. Be aware and conscious of the fact that while the body is transacting with the rest of the world, while the body is doing what is to be done, I have nothing to do with this body. This body is existing because of I, but I have nothing to do with this body. Just like I have nothing to do with somebody else's body. Can we think of that? I have nothing to do with somebody else's body. That body is I. Which is why, let us say you're walking on the street and you see a small child crying. Because that body is also I, that mind is also I, you stop and you inquire, what happened, baby? But I have nothing to do with the body. Deha aham asmi matihi, that kind of thinking, that kind of my proposition I drop through knowledge, through Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana. With this, everything's complete. Atma vare va are tishtavyaha has to be known. Therefore, pramana. Shotavyaha has to be known through Shravanam, which is both listening and vichara. Mantavyaha has to be understood clearly by removing any other possible doubt. Nididhyasitavyaha has to be convinced that I am that. That I that I've been searching for all this time. And it was convenient to take the body mind sense complex as I, it was convenient. And that's not wrong. The fallacy is when I say I am that body mind sense complex. Nididhyasitavya. With that, the process is complete. The sadhaka has gone through the entire route, but is yet to become a jnani. Still the process of understanding. That will happen one day. So you keep on doing Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam over and over and over again. Aham Brahmosmi. On the one hand, I pray, I continue to pray to Ishvara. Help me with that. Because I'm still a mumukshu, a jignasu, not yet a jnani. And that conviction, aparokshataya, this is one of the biggest steps in this whole process. Any object of the world I can understand as an object of the world other than I. Any object, including my mind, which I can study using a science called psychology, a semi-science called psychology, not a science. Any object I can study. I can study my body, study anatomy, physiology. What is my body? My brain, my mind. When it comes to the karta, who's that I? We have a challenge. So this whole process one keep going through. And like I said, there are two other conditions for this to happen. One is that I must have adhikaritvam. I must be an adhikari. All this, he looked at Dustarka, he's removed. How does one become an adhikari? One becomes an adhikari by gaining all the qualities of an adhikari. Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Samadhanam, Shraddha, if all of this is required. Plus Vairagyam, Viveka. Mukshutvam, of course, is taken for granted. If you're not a mumukshu, if you're not a jignasu, nothing is going to happen. And how do I gain that? How do I gain that adhikaritam? And now the process is clear. One way of doing it is find out what are those. And Swami G had a very famous phrase, fake it and make it. I don't have it, but I try, I understand that I require to gain that quality. Therefore, I try my best to exhibit that quality, even though it doesn't come naturally to me. And when I get to a state where it becomes natural, in management jargon, there is a method which explains how we learn anything. We start with unconscious incompetence. Anything you want to learn, what's so great about it? People who start playing golf first time can tell you, what is a big deal? You have one ball, you hit it, it goes wherever you hit it. So simple. Or somebody, let's say, who wants to try to play the flute, a big deal. I know all the science behind it. You blow on it, the air vibrates, and I can control the frequency vibration by closing various holes in it. What a big deal. And then the first time they pick up a flute or a golf club, nothing happens. Nothing goes the way it's supposed to go. In the first place, he hits a golf ball so hard, the golf ball remains there, hits earth. So it's much easier. No? Golf ball is 1 inch. Earth is some 25,000, 8,000 miles in diameter. Much easier to hit the big ball. No? Then he recognizes his own incompetence. or conscious incompetence. Any learning goes through these stages. So he blows on the flute, only goes hoo, hoo, hoo. There's no sound. And then he tries and tries and tries and tries and tries. And is now able to produce its sound. Or is now able to hit that ball. Some competence begins to grow in that field. They say that is the stage when a person will show interest because something is happening. It's the ball, there's a sweet sound of the club hitting the ball and the ball sails. Wow. One shot he gets so influenced that he's encouraged. He gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning and goes to the driving range to hit a few balls. He hits 100 balls. 99 go here, everywhere, but not where he's trying to hit them. But he now knows that he can hit it. That one ball is enough. This is a state called conscious competence. Some develop some amount of conscious competence. And when he goes on doing, because now he's got interest in that, goes on doing, suddenly he finds he can make music out of that flute. One piece of bamboo with nothing in it, no frets, no reeds, no strings, no nothing. Suddenly music starts coming out of it. This is what's called the unconscious competence stage. This is what happens also in our preparation. I know I need to have amanitvam, madambitvam, ahimsa, kshanti, compassion, kindness. I don't feel it. But I keep attempting. And over time, it becomes in nature, second nature to one. That is how one gains adhikaritvam. All the factors. Otherwise, what would happen normally? Either I think I have learned everything that I can learn. I've done so much Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam, I think I know. I'm ready to challenge my Guru. So I invite the Guru for a debate. Dangerous. It can puncture one's ego. Or to any wise man. I go to a wise man and say, I challenge you. I have read all your books. I think these are the holes in your books. That fellow says, the only holes that you see are in your head. Challenge. Buddhajanaihi vada parityajyatam. It says, Buddhajanaihi, wise people. With them, do not get into a vada. In fact, don't get into vada with anybody. Any argument on this is futile. Do not try and impose what you have understood on somebody else unless that person comes and says, you have learned something I want to know. Bhagavan Krishna also did this, remember? He was a friend to Arjuna, companion to Arjuna for so many years. And Krishna knew all this. Arjuna didn't. Did he catch hold of Arjuna by the ear and say, sit, I'm going to teach you the truth? He didn't. He played with him. He went on journeys with him. He did all the other things, but he never taught him, never told him. He knew that if he starts arguing, Arjuna is not an idiot. Arjuna is a very, very accomplished person. So he will argue. He has ideas in his head. He knew he will argue. He also knows that I can beat him in the argument, but he doesn't want to get into an argument. Entire first chapter of the Gita, he lets Arjuna rant. Doesn't tell him anything other than admonishing him and saying, go fight this war. That's what your duty is. You're a Kshatriya prince. You have to uphold dharma. He only tells that. When does Krishna start teaching Arjuna? When Arjuna, in the second chapter, in utter confusion, comes and says, I'm confused. I don't know what to do. Please accept me as a shishya and teach me. Now see the difference. If Krishna had started teaching him before this statement of Arjuna, it would have been a vada between two equals, each having a point of view. And when you have a point of view, you want to convince the other. We see this every day in our drawing room discussions. You have a point of view, you think the other is at best equal to you, if not lower than you, less knowledgeable than you. You start the discussion on that premise. Where does those discussions lead? Those discussions will lead us to the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.